As someone who has recently been through secondary school, I have witnessed many jokes being made, with autism being the subject. Autism is such a common subject for jokes made these days, especially around young people, but something that isn't talked about as much is how an autistic person such as myself feels about these jokes. It's a common stereotype for autism straight away being linked to being stupid. Hence why a lot of the jokes I hear are just people calling someone autistic because they've done something relatively unintelligent. At the end of the day, it's hardly creative, and the people making these jokes seem like the unintelligent ones for joking about something they literally know nothing about. I guarantee you, if you ask someone who makes these jokes to describe what autism is, they wouldn't be able to. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy dark humour as much as the next person, but it at least has to have some wit to it, rather than just making a joke about something they know nothing about. You'd think with autism becoming a more widely accepted disability, for the lack of a better term, that people would start to understand the realities of it, but unfortunately it's the opposite that's happening. And I struggle to understand why this is. I even tried to do some research into why this happens, and I found out next to nothing. All I found were articles about autistic people not being able to understand humour, but that's a completely different subject that I'll cover in a future video. The number of memes I've seen that have used autism as a way to humour people is unbelievable. Let's start off by talking about the stereotype of autistic people being stupid. As discussed in my video from last week, link in description, no autistic person is the same, and there are so many different traits that make autistic people who they are. No two autistic people have the exact same traits. None of the traits that I discussed in that video have anything to do with the intelligence of autistic people. So where does this stereotype come from? After all, another common stereotype among people that don't know a whole lot about autism is that they are more intelligent than the average neurotypical person, completely contradicting the other side to the argument. As much as this isn't true, I can kind of understand the origins of this stereotype. Because autistic people have special interests, yet another subject I'm going to cover in a future video, it gives us the ability to obsess on the research of things, making us appear more educated on specific subjects, but that doesn't mean more intelligent overall. It's very possible that because many of us don't socialise or talk up as much as your average neurotypical person, that this could make us seem less intelligent than other people. But this still doesn't entirely make sense. I think what it comes down to is the more visible traits of autism being picked apart, leading people to believe that this stems from stupidity rather than a neurological disability that doesn't affect intelligence at all. So this takes us back to the question, how does an autistic person feel about these jokes? At the end of the day, I think it comes down to the fine line between it being a joke and between it being outright discrimination, albeit intentional or unintentional. There is genuine funny comedy out there with autism being the subject, but it's very few and far between, and it's evident that these people clearly have an idea of what they're talking about and clearly know a bit more about autism. And those jokes aren't the kind of jokes that I'm discussing. The ones where the word autism is simply used as a way to offend a person is an offence to me as an autistic person as well. How would you feel if something that's a part of you, something you've had to live with your whole life, something that you simply cannot change, was just thrown around like it means nothing? It would hurt, wouldn't it? And that's why I believe people should at least think about the people who could hear these jokes before making them. I've witnessed so many people cracking these jokes in my presence, them not realising I'm autistic. And it doesn't come across well. And when we don't take well to these jokes, we're simply told we have a bad sense of humour. So why should we just have to take these jokes and pretend they don't affect us in any way, just to satisfy a person trying to make other people laugh? And of course I know that the majority of the time these jokes are made without intention to offend anyone, but whatever the intention is, you should be prepared to take what you're giving out. I want to elaborate that I don't expect people to go out and do hours and hours of research in order to make these jokes, but at least understand what you're joking about before you make the joke. And this goes beyond autism. This should be something you're constantly thinking about. I have a friend that has recently confessed to me that before knowing I was autistic, before getting to know me, and before learning about what autism is, he made countless autism jokes, but those jokes have since dissipated from the humour that he outputs. The reason I'm making these videos is to give people a straightforward method to learn a little bit about what autism is without having to do loads of research, with the hopes that even just a little awareness is taken away from these videos. We can't live in a society where these jokes are just becoming acceptable day by day, with us having to listen to them and not do anything about it. If you have made jokes about autism, then I just hope you think in future before making these jokes. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.